My name is Jonathan Williams. Today I'm interviewing Larry Ruebke on March 21st, 2017 at the Sparta Public Library in Sparta, Illinois. Where and when were you born?
Redbud, Illinois, January 1st, 1947.
Did you also graduate from there?
No, I graduated from Stillville High School.
Who and where were your parents and what are their occupations?
My dad was a farmer. It was Omer Ruebke, and my mom was a homemaker, Pearl Ruebke.
So you grew up on a farm?
Except for the first 10 years, we lived in town in Stillville.
Who are your siblings and what are their names and genders? And have any of them served in the military also?
My oldest son is Eric Allen Ruebke. His middle name he carries from a good friend of mine I lost in Vietnam. He's a full bird colonel in Army Reserves, and he's a doctor at Carbondale, Heron, and Marion, and he graduated from Sparta High School in 1987.
What were you doing before you joined the service?
I've got a couple other kids.
Oh, all right, keep going.
Okay, my daughter, she's a DJ for Arch radio station and a program director. And my other son, he works for a place where they make granite tops and stone tops and everything like that. And he's down in Alabama. That's my friends, my kids.
All right. Do you have any brothers and sisters?
I got one sister, Lisa Austin. She's a nurse at Chester Hospital. She works in the operating room.
What were you doing before you joined the service?
I was a mechanic, gas and diesel mechanic. I was working at Hartman's Farm Supply in Baldwin when it was Hartman's.
And what year did you join the service?
1967.
How long did you serve?
7 years, 2 months, and 5 days.
Were you living when you joined the service? Wait, where were you living when you joined the service?
I think I was living in Chester.
Chester, Illinois?
Yeah, Chester, Illinois. I was married.
And what branch of the military did you serve?
The United States Army.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I was drafted and enlisted when I was almost out of basic training.
How was basic training?
Huh?
Like, how was basic training?
Well, growing up on a farm, it wasn't that hard at all.
Why did you chose that specific branch of the military?
I was making, I think the monthly pay back then was like $67 for the whole month, and I was married and had a car, and when they came up with this class that they was wanting people to re-enlist for schools and stuff, they said, you could get $150 extra month proficiency pay after you graduated, so I was the highest score and I ended up getting it, so I re-enlisted then.
What happened when you departed for a training camp and during your early days of training?
The buddy of mine that didn't come back, Alan Tricano, me and him ran around, went fishing, went hunting and stuff, and I took about a 2 weeks vacation before I went in.
Do you recall your instructors?
No, that's been a long time ago.
What were your instructors like?
Pardon me?
Do you remember what your instructors were like?
They were nice, They did what they had to do. They yelled at you and made you do a lot of push-ups.
What did you think of basic training?
I didn't think it was that bad. We growing up on a farm, we had milk cows and stuff, so we put up hay almost 6 days a week. So basic training wasn't that hard.
Would you go again?
Go to basic training again?
Yeah.
No, not at 70 years old.
Would you recommend it to other people?
Yes, yes.
What was the worst part of boot camp?
I guess standing in line and getting shots.
Did you receive any specialized training? If so, what kind of training?
Not through basic training, but at AIT I was an electronics technician for Nike Hercules missile system, artillery missile system. It was an air defense command.
What is AIT?
Advanced individual training. That was like 25, 26 weeks long.
How did you adapt to the military life, including the physical remain, barracks, food, and social life?
Well, I re-enlisted. I enjoyed it. I would have stayed in, but they closed all the missile sites up. And there was 13 years to go and 13 countries overseas, so I'd have been spending most of my time overseas.
Where did you serve?
Took basic training in Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I took advanced individual training at Fort Bliss, and I was assigned there for 3 years, and I got on an advanced marksmanship unit down there, and I was at Fort Bliss, Fort Sam Houston, both in Texas, and I re-enlisted for Alaska and spent 17 months up there out of the 3 years that I was supposed to stay up there because they closed up the missile site. And from there I got transferred to Edgewood Arsenal, Aberdeen Proving Grounds in Maryland.
What are some of your favorite memories of that experience?
Oh, setting 2 range records when I was on an advanced marksmanship unit, and then when I was stationed at Edgewood, we had only lost 1/1/2 of a point in 2.5 years of all our inspections. And the system that was supposed to take care over the Nike Hercules system, we had to put a 3-day show on for the guys that designed this new missile system because the Army wanted to show them how to handle nuclear warheads. And then after that, the Army came out and they took movies of us while we closed up the missile site, which nobody gets to see because it was secret.
What was your first impression?
My first impression? I like the haircut. No, that was all taken off at one time. There were several guys crying, had their nice hair and had it all removed and stuff.
What kind of friendships did you form while serving, and with who?
Several real good friendships. I'm still real good friends with the guy I served with up in Alaska. He was the one that ended up closing the missile site up in Hecker, and I keep in touch with him. There was another good friend of mine in Edgewood Arsenal, and I lost track of him and couldn't find heads or tails of where he went or anything, so that was about it and stuff.
How did you stay in touch with your family and friends back home?
Letters, telephones, and get leave every once in a while, to come back home.
What did you do for recreation or when you were off duty?
Usually we went out in the desert and hunted and stuff, or when I was in Alaska we hunted and fished, and in Maryland we fished because Chesapeake Bay was right there on our missile site.
What was your favorite memory of being off duty? Like what you did?
There was a lot of them, hunting out there in the deserts in Texas and stuff. And, the one place in Maryland, at payday, we would go out eat at this one restaurant. And they had homemade baked bread with every meal. You got a whole loaf of it. So that was one of the good deals.
What was your most memorable experience while serving?
Going to a 2-minute status to fire out a missile, and which nobody knows about.
Could you explain about it?
I don't know if I could or not. I can. It's something. It was secret, so nobody would have known about it if we'd fired them out. I fired out missiles anyway until it was all over.
What did you think of the people you served with?
They was all competent, and I got along with almost every one of them out there except for one warrant officer when I was in Alaska. He was an alcoholic, and he probably could have got kicked out of the Army a couple times for being drunk at work.
Were there a lot of other people like that?
There was a couple of them, but they was older guys in service and stuff, and probably that they had been busted already and stuff.
What was the highest rank you ever achieved?
Staff sergeant, E6 pay grade. That's 3 stripes and 1 rocker underneath.
Do you have any of them things with you?
Well, it would look like that. Look, right there.
That's a medal?
No, that's the rank.
Rank? What was your rank?
Staff sergeant E6.
What is that one right there?
This donates that you have a son or a daughter in the military, and Army was the branch of service that I was in.
Where were you when your period of the ship was up?
Pardon me?
Where were you when your period of the service was up?
Edgewood Arsenal, Aberdeen Proving Grounds, Maryland, about 20 miles north of Baltimore.
How did you return home?
I drove.
You drove by yourself?
No, I was married and had a stepson and drove all the way back from there down to Steelville, spent a month there, and then went down to San Antonio where we had property in San Antonio, Texas.
How were you received by your family and community?
Well, good. Everybody asked you what you did in service and what you was doing and stuff. Basically all the same stuff that if you have a friend in service, you'd be asking them.
So everyone was happy to see you made it back?
Yeah.
How did you readjust to the civilian life?
Didn't have any problems. I went to work as a heavy equipment mechanic in San Antonio in a rock quarry after that, and then came up here and went to work as heavy equipment mechanic in the coal mines.
What was the biggest surprise about your civilian workplace?
Pardon me?
What was your biggest surprise about the civilian workplace?
How everything was clean and how everything was precise. You did everything by the book on the missile system, and it was they checked and double checked. You usually had about 2 to 3 inspections a week.
What would happen if it was dirty when they came there to like spot it out?
You would get a gig on it, and you would they would schedule for another inspection probably within the next couple of days.
And what would happen if it was still dirty?
You didn't do it again.
Have you remained in contact or reunited with fellow veterans?
Yes, some of the guys that I was in service with, and then some of the guys that I was in, you know, from my hometown and stuff like that.
Are you a member of any veteran organizations?
The AMVETS, American Legion, AMVETS in Perryville, Missouri, and American Legion in Prairie du Rocher, and DVA, I can't think of what this DVA stands for. Disabled Veterans Association.
What do you do in them organizations?
Mostly have meetings, and they decide what they're going to do, you know, and stuff like that. Have stuff for other veterans and stuff, and it's basically what, you know, they help you if you have some problems with the military or your past records or stuff like this. They have people that will help you and stuff.
Would you recommend these organizations to other people that was in the military?
Yes, most definitely.
What have you done since separating from the military?
Worked as a mechanic. I belong to the Friends of the NRA, where they promote shooting and raise money for, like, the Sparta shooting complex for the high school kids and stuff, and for women's shooting and stuff like that.
Are there always more veterans that come help, like always new ones? Like every year in like your organizations, are there new people that come?
Yes, there is. You know, a lot. It would be, you know, nice to see a lot of younger people join the American Legion or the veterans, the veterans, you know, overseas, foreign veterans, VFW, AMVETS and stuff. A lot of the new people or younger people are not joining it, which would be nice for them to join.
Did you receive any rewards being in the military?
I was on an advanced marksmanship unit. I earned a excellent in competition badge, and that was at Fort Sam Houston. I placed in the top 8% of the guys. It was all in 4th Army, and when we went to all Army matches in Fort Benning, I was placed in the top 8% again and got another 14 points, which that's considered all the people, the high capacity shooters in the United States.
Do you have some of them awards with you?
Yes, I do.
What is that one for?
That's excellent competition. That's a bronze star. You get when you if you first compete and you qualify within the top 8% of the people that's doing it, you get a bronze star. And then when you get up to 20 points, you get a silver star. And if you compete in a minimum that you could get 10 points every time, you'd have to win the match every time that you competed. It would take at least 3 matches, and you have to get a 30-point to get that, and it's a Distinguished Rifleman's badge, and there's not very many people that have with them. There's not many people that know what this looks like either. These are the badges you wore at Fort Bliss when I was on their advanced marksmanship unit. And when I went to 4th Army, this was the badge you wore on your jacket. I also had qualified as expert marksman with a rifle and pistol.
How was you so good at it?
Well, raised on a farm, every time I'd hurry up and do all my chores and I'd go out hunting, and there was, always squirrel hunting, rabbit hunting, groundhog hunting and stuff like that. It was, just something I loved to do and stuff.
Did you get taught how to do it, or you learned by yourself?
Mostly learned by myself, but when I got in the military on an advanced marksmanship unit, you had coaches coaching you and stuff. You would shoot 200 yards offhand in one shot a minute for a 10.5-inch circle. You do a 200 yard standing to sitting with a reload in 50 seconds, and then 300 yards you shoot the same target at 300 yards standing to prone. And this all included a reload, changing magazines, and this was without scopes or, like some of them say, sissy sticks. And at 600 yards you had a round every minute, and then every once in a while you could shoot. We'd shoot in matches at 1,000 yards, and you could shoot with an M14 without a scope. You'd shoot, roll over, and look through your spotting scope, and you could see the bullet go down and strike the target. That's how long it took for the bullet to hit the target. It took about 2 seconds for it to hit.
Were you like one of the best shooters where you was?
There's always somebody better than you. And there's always somebody that's going to beat you. But once in a while you end up,
Doing good?
Yeah.
How did your service experience affect your life?
More disciplined and wanting to do things, exactly right and stuff, because in the missile system it was like everything had to be exactly right. It couldn't be no ifs, ands, and buts. And with the military, with the rifles and stuff, it was the same way.
What were your duties of the service?
I was in charge of the electronics and electrical system on the missiles. We would take a missile down almost every 2 months, and it would be completely rechecked out. The first stage, they would check the interior of it, make sure that the propellant that was inside was, still good and stuff. And then we would check the same thing with the second stage rocket motor. We'd check out the hydraulic systems and see if they was operating as they were supposed to. You would check the guidance section out electronically and electrical and electronically, and then you would check the warhead, the high explosive warhead, the nuclear warheads, and make sure they was, all up and stuff. And then you would put the missiles back together. And
was there a chance that you could have seen combat?
Pardon me?
Was there a chance that you could see combat?
Yes, probably. Well, after I re-enlisted or enlisted the first time, a couple days later, my orders came down and said that I would have gone to Fort Polk, Louisiana, Small Arms Infantry if I hadn't enlisted for the Nike Hercules missile system. So I would have been in infantry, and I probably would have went straight to Vietnam.
How did you feel about avoiding combat?
The people you lost, it's like, why them and not me? And that's something you always have to live with.
Did you personally know anyone who did see combat?
Yes, there were several guys in our high school, and my best friend, Alan Tricano, who me and him got drafted together. He went over in Vietnam and he didn't come back.
What key knowledge, skills, abilities, and experience that you learned from military service would you say are the most valuable?
Doing the job the right way and doing it the first time, and make sure, you know, that when you get done with the job that it's done right.
Would you recommend to kids nowadays to go to the military?
Yes, I would. Now you can get, the pay is one heck of a lot more than what I made when I was drafted, and everybody else at the same time. They're making 1,000 times more money than what I was making and stuff. My son, he joined the National Guard when he was from junior high school, when he was a junior, and it put him through college. And after he got his, while he was taking his residency, they asked him to join the Army Reserve, and he had joined the Army Reserve, and without that he would have never become a doctor. And there's a lot of other people that, wouldn't get the education that they get now.
Could we see some of the pictures you brought?
That's me in basic training.
You look young.
Huh? 20 years old. Yeah. When I re-enlisted for Alaska, this is my first cousin, Michael Hafner. He was a first lieutenant in the Nike Hercules missile system. And when I re-enlisted, he had re-enlisted me. And that was the trophies behind some of the trophies we won when we was on a rifle team. My battalion or company commander kind of got mad because I had him re-enlist me instead of the company commander, because I think they get little bitty bonus points for that. And then after I told him it was my cousin, he says, well, he said, and this is a picture of some of the guys that was on the rifle team.
How has your military service impacted your feelings about the war and the military in general?
You have to have people willing to protect, our freedom, and some wars could have been prevented, and, some of them can't. I'm a big buff on World War II, and read about what they went through and stuff, and some of the stories are really sad.
What message would you like to leave for the future generations who will view this interview?
What?
What message would you like to leave for future generations who will view this interview?
I'd recommend it for everybody that's in service, not just for the person that's doing it, for their kids, their grandkids, and great-grandkids, because I had, uncles and stuff that was in service, and they really didn't speak about it or anything. And, after years and stuff, and after their passing, you would really like to, find out what they did.
Is there anything you feel like we haven't discussed or should be added to this interview?
No, I can't think of anything. Probably after I leave, I would.
This concludes our interview. Thank you for taking part in this interview, and thank you for your service.
Thank you.